This is the Ultimate Racing Network GT3 2015 Round 3 at Catalunya. This is the race. It's going to be 43 race laps with one formation lap. It's going to be very incredible racing we've got ahead of us. We just completed 20 minutes of qualifying where we had I'm Frame on pole. We'll have somebody go through the starting order there in just a minute, but this should be very exciting racing. 20 full drivers on here. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell, Siphon68, and joining me in the commentating booth is Matt Tucker, PTG Mesosphere.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Onward Lobby A. The grid, very interesting. Qualifying gap of half a second, which is pretty much unheard of for these cars around here, with I'm Frame in pole with a 147.762. LRT Breeze took second with a 148.325, with F4H Eggy and F4H Chris Supra rounding out row 2 with 148.4 and 148.7 respectively. LRT Nath got a 148 rather 0.722 to come fifth, only 0.02 of a second off of that off of Chris Supra. LSR Worst Man coming in sixth. LRT Stubbsy 7th, the British First in 8th, GSR Roadrunner in 9th with a 149.0, the highest placed Bentley. LRT Sidewinder taking out the rounding out the top 10. LRT Lamb Chop 11th, FAF Stone Stig in 12th with a 149.7. XPR Roadrunner and XPR Chicane then come in just 0.02 apart from each other, with a 149.733 and a 149.752 respectively. LER Hydro 149.907 and Mr. Stepanov with a 149.980, but still not the last person under the 150 barrier, with F4H Devil bringing a 149.999, coming in 17th place. 18th is LER Maze, just outside the 150 barrier with an 017. Hakamai CJD at 1 minute 50.613, and last but not least in this lobby, Midland Zeta with 150.625, just 12 thousandths of a second behind Hakamai. I think they qualified out of lobby 2. We're about to go racing though here. It's a single file start, just because that chicane is so tight just before the start finish line. I'm Frame decides when everyone gets to go. He can go any time between that corner and start finish line. I think he's bolted immediately, and LRT Breeze immediately comes straight past, showing the straight line speed advantage they have over the BMWs here. So we head down into turn 1. 2 or 3 wide in the background there. As Breeze continues on up the hill in first. Just checking further back down the field. Looking very hectic. And it looks like Breeze and In Frame having an incredible dogfight right up here near the front. Right, here we are. Now figured out exactly what our camera's looking at. Yeah, first and second, Breeze with In Frame all over him through the corner sections. You can see the advantage the Z4 has, but it loses out on the straights, so he's going to have to try and make the position as early in the lap as he can and try and extend that advantage. Otherwise, Breeze is going to be all over, keeping him behind for quite some time, because he's going to really struggle to pass in this main straight.
Just on board with British First here in the McLaren.
It's nice to see a McLaren actually in the field. Very nice livery. Seems to have been an interesting start, because he's fallen behind Roadrunner. Fairly certain he qualified in front of him. But Roadrunner up to 6th place, so doing well in the Bentley. certainly making some positions up probably on that start-finish straight on the first lap. McLaren actually looks very stable through there. I haven't seen too much of it running around this particular track.
All right, we're now past the first lap, so there shouldn't be any restarts from here. This will be interesting to see what happens. Like you said, it's very interesting order changing right up front with GSR Roadrunner picking up a few places, and the power of that Corvette able to just slip by the Z4. The question is going to be whether he can keep I'm Frame behind. I mean, I'm Frame in qualifying was a half second faster than everyone else, so I got to imagine at some point during this 43 lap race that somebody's, he's going to be able to get around.
It's going to be really tricky for him because the parts that he is much faster is the hardest places to overtake. So it's going to be a lot of hard work for him to actually get back around Bruce. And in fact, a number of the Z4s seem to have got shuffled down the order off of that really long opening straight. Though having said that, there seemed to be a move there briefly in the background.
You tell who that was between. If you do find I
think
battle.
It was Worst Man getting back in front of LRT Sidewinder.
That's the battle for 9th, and yeah.
Again, taking advantage through the tight section, but if you track
he's
him
just
now,
lunch meat for that.
Yeah.
You'll see he's just lunch meat for that Corvette on the straight.
He tries to get right over to defend that inside, but that's no good. It's already passed.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to not give him the draft as well,
Yeah. It's going to be a long race for the Z4s. They're so fast around areas of this track, but they're in areas that you can't.
Oh man, very very close there. Turn 3 between Worst Man and LRT Sidewinder. We see the camera actually go practically touch the rear bumper there.
Yeah, it got within the near pane of the camera, so we saw clear through the Corvette. That must have been close.
Definitely under pressure again from LRT Lamb Chop behind, fighting for that 10th place. Man, Z4's under attack all over the place. See if you can't look up and down the field, see if there's another battle that's a bit better than this. I mean, this is pretty good here. We've got the Z4 Oreo filling here between the two Corvettes.
Well, Nath seems to have just gotten around, I think it's British First during this lap, or at least because I remember British First being in 7th last time we checked on him. So there's a quick swap for position.
He's right there though, so I mean, if these Corvettes, I mean, I know in exit of turn 2, that Corvette is easy to lose traction, and he got a little bit sideways, recovered just fine, but if he makes another mistake like that, he's going to be in the clutches of that McLaren. McLaren is going to want to stay behind. It looks like Nath has just moved up ahead. Has he not? No, he hasn't. Sorry, that's still GSR Roadrunner holding down 6th at the moment.
Action pretty tight at the front, actually, because surprisingly, the BMW, when it's drafting the Corvette, can stay with it for 1st and 2nd. So
switching now to I'm Frame then to try and pick up some of that leader action between the two. If we do have I'm Frame win this race, that'll be our 3rd different team winning, our 3rd different driver winning, and our 3rd different manufacturer winning.
Yeah, shows, 1, how close this series is, and 2, the variety of tracks we've been to seem to accentuate different cars in different ways. For instance, the Corvette seemed to do very well at the wet in Silverstone, had really good traction, really good balance in the rain, and also the rain does accentuate driver skill to an extent.
Yeah, the other thing there is I believe that most of the LRT guys are running traction control, whereas some of the Z4 guys are not using driver aids. So that could be another differentiator there, especially I know GSR Roadrunner in that Bentley is not using aids. Very, very close now between I'm Frame as we enter turn 13. They come down in the 14-15 chicane. He goes to the outside. It's going to be too tight. This is a single file entry here. The question is going to be whether he can stay close enough on... he's not going to catch him down this straight. I think we're going to see the Corvette pull away just a little bit on this straight, and then down into turn 1, 2, and 3 is where he's going to want to stay as close as he possibly can. I think the overtake opportunity down into turn 4.
Yeah, I think turn 4 is a possibility. Turn 5 is also a good one because he does seem to get a very good run off of those two corners. I mean, this is where he nearly ran into the back of him last lap.
Yeah, indeed. He's getting closer and closer. I don't know that he lined that one up quite as good as he had hoped.
Does look like Eggy is certainly also keeping up with them very well, so this is going to be an interesting battle. But the Z4 may have to try and do something strategically
Turn
a little
5,
bit different.
very close again, yep.
To get around that Corvette and actually use his speed and clear running. Something must have happened behind because briefly it was showing Roadrunner in 4th, now in 5th, and Roadrunner's gone and binned it. So whatever he'd done to get a couple of places, he's just lost 4 of them. He's down in 9th place now.
Ouch. Presumably he would have lost it there between turn 5 and turn 7. Probably
Yes,
just messing up
that's
the...
where he lost the rear of the car then when I was quickly checking through. But now it's showing LRT Nath in 5th place in that Corvette, with the McLaren of British First in 6th place.
Has the XPLR, or I'm sorry, the XPR Bentley seen some damage here?
I'm trying to find him.
Doesn't look like it, but he has moved down the order quite a bit. He's currently in 18th. We're talking about XPR Roadrunner at the moment.
Doesn't appear to be any damage, or certainly nothing significant.
XPR Chicane as well, down in 20th. So both of those guys not really capitalizing on their qualifying placement here.
With both of the XPR people possibly going into the pits, it's possibly then they're working on a strategy of just pit early and try and get some clean track.
Yeah, it could be the Bentleys are generally okay on fuel.
Yeah, Bentleys don't have a problem with fuel. Oh, I was watching chicane then, and a little incident there with Hakamai. Bit of side to side, trying to go too wide through turn 2.
Yeah, that's rough. It's really turn 3 where you can possibly take an inside line with a heavier car that's trying to go to the outside.
In this case, it was the heavier car on the outside that lost out.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, the heavier car ends up getting pushed to the outside. You could take an inside line and capitalize on a heavier car. I'm sorry, I should have made that a little bit more clear, but yeah, generally that's what happens there. Turn 3, the heavier car just ends up having a little bit of understeer and needs to use all of the road, versus a more light and nimble car can sort of take that. It's a bit of an over-under, but you don't really see it. It takes so long to execute in turn 3 because it's a long, sustained right-hander. It's a fantastic livery on that FEV Corvette there of XPR Chicane.
Yeah, it is a fantastic looking livery. But if you're really wanting some intense battle at the moment, you might want to check out the leaders again.
All right, back up to we will ride on board again with M frame.
But
Wow, F4H Eggy very, very close again as well.
they were all nose to tail coming onto the straight, so I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing either some pit stops from one of these, just to try and...
Oh, Eggy going a bit wide there. That's going to cost him. I'm frame is right there, though. I wonder if that was just some downforce lost. Sent him out a bit.
With two cars in front, you're going to get a little bit of understeer creeping into the car, particularly if you're used to using a high downforce setup on the front.
Yeah, which I would think that these Z4s are going to try and capitalize on on that, as opposed to throwing away their advantage. Very, very close here. Is he going to try and peek up the inside down into turn 10? I don't think so. He's a bit too far back, I think. It would be a bit of a risky move. It's early in the race. I think it's best to do exactly as he's doing. Stay right there behind him and keep the pressure on high.
Yeah, you just, in his position, it's all about trying to force a mistake from Breeze. A tough ask, but that's what he's trying to do, until he can start getting into a window where he can look at alternate pit strategies.
You know, they're both slower now. I don't know if we talked about this a little bit last time at Hockenheim, but the more time you spend looking in your rear view mirror and focusing on whether the guy ahead is making mistakes, and you got to pay your attention span has to really get narrow, and your focus has to get almost hyper attuned here to make sure that while you're watching the guy ahead, you're not following him into a mistake, because if he makes a mistake, you have to capitalize. And both of them are slowing up to the point that F4H Eggy is right here. Wow, we see turn 3 here. Coming down into turn 4, we see I'm Frame closer really than he's been in several laps. Just
I think he's trying for an over-under.
Is he gonna? He's practically alongside him, but F4H Eggy is narrowing up the inside there, gonna try and close off. Oh, he's on the outside. They're alongside each other. They're going to be coming down. That's going to be Breeze having the inside line, and he'll have the quicker line here into single file 7 and 8. Very, very close as they go up the hill here. Holy cow. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm just absolutely amazed. I mean, they're basically pushing each other around the track at the moment, and I'm amazed that they're all still on it in one piece. That shows some real driver skill right there.
Yeah, this is some of the best racing we've seen out of GT3. These three right here at the front, nobody really making a mistake, a big mistake at all. We saw a little bit of aero wash there from F4H Eggy, but he's caught right back up, and he's practically pushing him now into turn 13, into the chicane. Now we know the Z4s are just a little bit quicker through here.
Yeah, they're a little quicker through the chicane, but they struggle once they're off of this corner, because they can follow him nice and close. But
we're gonna see
I think without the draft, they would be losing a lot of time here. But they're staying with him simply because of the tow. They're still losing a little bit of ground. You can see the Corvette easing away, but without the tow, that difference would be much more marked. And then turns 2 and 3, they catch immediately straight back up again. Just because they have so much easier time on turn 3, just getting their power back down.
It does look like both F4H Eggy and I'm Frame are running similar setups, because under draft we didn't see Eggy really close up that much on I'm Frame. He did a little bit of a late break to stay close on turn 2, but not really seeing much between those two Z4s, the two BMWs there.
No, it does look like they're running very similar aero setups, which would be the only differential along that straight.
Oh man, he's very, very close on the hill up to turn 9 here. We know that the Z4 can stay more in it here than the Corvette can. Is he going to peek out alongside again?
Thought for a second there.
Yeah, I thought he was too.
He has gone defensive. That's going to tighten up his exit off of here, but there's no room for the Z4 to go past. So In Frame stays behind for another lap.
You know, even once he does get past, either one of these Z4s get past the Corvette is just going to blow right back past it on the straight.
Yeah, this is the wrong end of the circuit for making the pass. They want to make it at turn 4 and 5. That's their best chance of making it stick.
Eggy just a bit back there. We see I'm Frame.
I hope he hasn't lost the toe, because that could drop him off the battle if he has.
Yeah, indeed.
Moving. Just checking further back down the field for some other interesting battles.
Okay, I'll keep
you might want to watch British first, and there was somebody with him. Oh, somebody's in the gravel.
See if you can find out who that is. We're on board with the British first right now in his McLaren. with
I think
worst man behind.
I think it was side. It's either Sidewinder or Lamb Chop. I'm trying to see if either one of them have got any dings, because they dived down the inside of British first, going into turn 1, and I think they outbrake themselves. Because I didn't see any contact, but there might have been on the right, the left-hand side as they're looking at it.
All right, well, we'll use this opportunity to give you a quick rundown of what the running order is. We've got LRT Breeze leading this race. I'm Frame right behind him, and just behind that is F4H Eggy in third. F4H Chris Super is in fourth, LRT Nath fifth. LSR Worst Man is sixth, British First is seventh, GSR Roadrunner eighth, LRT Sidewinder is 9th, LRT Lamb Chop 10th, LER Hydro is 11th, FAF Stone Stig is 12th, LRT Stubbsy is 13th, Mr. Stepanov has moved up to 14th, F4H Devil is 15th, XPR Roadrunner clawing his way back up is 16th, Midland Zeta has moved up 3 places to 17th, XPR Chicane still sort of down there in 18th, but up from his previous position of 20th, and LER Mays 19th with Hakumai in 20th. There is a bit of a train forming behind behind British First here. This is the battle for 8th. Very, very close. A bit of a nudge there from the Corvette. I think it's going to be Corvette moving right over, cuts over the nose there, still clean. Wow, very, very close there, and that's going to be the LRT Corvette taking that position from him. That's going to be LRT Sidewinder taking 8th place from the British First. LRT Lamb Chop right there to try and pounce and take another position, though this is where the McLaren is also going to shine, just like the BMW.
Yeah, that's another car with good rear traction, so it does well in this section. I must admit I didn't get a chance to try this one out too much myself during the interval between races.
A very bold move there from British First. It looked like he was going to try and go up the inside of turn 5 there and go late break, and then really had to throw on the anchors to make sure he didn't slam into the back of LRT Sidewinder there, as they went into turn 9. Or I'm sorry, turn 5 is when that happened. They're in turn 9 now. This is going to be a case of the Corvettes are just going to, as soon as they get ahead, it's going to be easier for them to pull away, I think.
Yeah, they make all their time up on the straight with that considerable straight line speed advantage that they seem to have over a few of the other cars. So once they get in front, they get on the straight, they can ease away, and then it's just, they can hold you up through the corners. It's so hard to pass around a lot of this track that they, as long as they keep it clean, keep it tidy, they can keep it behind and then just ease away on the straight again, where, you know, they can't really make any mistakes. Well, you'd hope not on a straight.
So we're going to see here whether LRT Lamb Chop got a good enough exit off of turn 16 there to try and make a pass on the McLaren. I don't think so. He's too far back still, and the McLaren is losing ground to the Corvette ahead of LRT Sidewinder.
Yeah, I'm just looking down the field at the moment to see if there's been any early pit stops, anyone running surprisingly low fuel.
We're about half fuel for the McLaren here, but we know that the McLaren is very, very good on fuel. I believe it's actually the best.
It certainly would appear so. Looks like the Audi of Midland Zeta will probably be pitting relatively soon. And we have Hakumai, who currently in 20th, as the only one who's stopped, because he's on 90% fuel at the moment. So, otherwise, they're keeping their powder dry for the first stint.
Yeah, with battles this tight, you know, I really wouldn't want to chance whether a pit stop is going to, you know, whether I'm going to make up time from that or not. I would think, you know, with this McLaren, he would want to stay on the back of the, get the tow for as long as he possibly could, because without the tow, he is that much slower, just like the BMWs here. So the Corvettes, I think they control the pit strategy here for people that have the tow behind them. You will see the Corvettes duck in, and I think we will see a pit strategy of, if they can make it, the cars that are following try and duck in at the same time to keep that draft.
Or I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here.
We do have one into the pit. One into the pit right now.
I'm trying to find who it is. It's Roadrunner.
GSR or
Yeah,
FTR?
GSR Roadrunner. GSR Roadrunner took the Bentley in. I'm just checking further behind. No, Midland Zeta still going. He's going to come out in 17th, 18th place possibly. Yeah, he's come out just in front of XPR chicane, so he's come out all the way down to 17th, so that's a drop of 10 places.
While we were watching this battle, I'm Frame did manage to get past LRT Breeze at the front, and it is just as tight as it ever was. F4H Aggie still holding on to third at the moment, not finding a way around that Corvette. Presumably this just happened this lap.
Yeah, it must have been just early on this lap, because when they crossed the line, they were all nose to tail as usual.
We'll see what happens with the BMW. He's got to get a very, very good exit if he's got to have any prayer of holding on to that spot. But with the tow, I think the Corvette is just going to annihilate the BMW. We'll see what happens here. Gaining, gaining, gaining. He's moving to the outside. For turn one, he's already done it. He's already got the pass made. It's like he had DRS open. Very, very close is I'm Frame behind, though, in the BMW.
Yeah, this would be the closest he's been through this section. He's trying to go around the outside.
He's making it. Yeah, he is going around the outside. It'll be an incredible pass if he can get that done. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, though. He's got to go more distance. Yeah, he doesn't. The Corvette just gets the advantage there. Tries to go around the outside again for turn four. He will have better traction here than that Corvette. And I think he's going to take the lead again. He has done.
He's thought about ducking down in 5, but thought better off it. Very impressive. Very impressive indeed. Now it's all about trying to make a gap up over this third of the track. If he can get half second to second as quickly as possible. So you can already see he's getting a slight gap already just through turn 9.
Yeah, oh, Breeze goes wide and he loses a place to F4H Aggie. Aggie does get around. Breeze went a little deep there in turn 10. I don't know what he was thinking there. I don't know if he locked up slightly, trying to just get that much more performance out of his Corvette. But the question now is, with that mistake, I don't think he'll be able to pass Aggie. I don't think he'll be able to pass both.
No, not from the display we got on the last lap. He got past one easily enough, but I think he went to the pits.
Double check that real quick. He did. LRT Breeze into the pits. This could be good news for both I'm Frame and F4H Aggie, depending on how their concentration and their final laps. They've still got about 20% fuel in the tank.
Yeah, they've probably got fuel enough for another couple of laps.
This could actually be good for them because they may go into qualifying mode here and just bang out some very consistent laps. While
Yes.
LRT Breeze is going to come back out into traffic. Now, they will come back out into traffic later, but presumably this clean air is going to allow them to build a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah, it all depends on the lap times that they can hit. And more importantly, the lap times that Breeze can hit. Because if he comes out in traffic, that really isn't going to help him too much. And I'm just checking back now, and he has come out in a bit of a battle with one of the BMWs. He's got Mr. Stepanov mixing it up with him, although he is in front of him at this particular moment in time, so he may just be able to pull away.
So Breeze comes out in 6th then, with Mr. Stepanov just behind in 7th.
Yeah, it's a very interesting phase at the moment as we move through the pit strategy. Who's going for the slightly earlier stop? Because the the fuel mileage that most of the cars have, I think all of them have to two-stop, but some of them are only just having to two-stop, so there's a lot of leeway in the strategy for a lot of these cars.
You know what's interesting on that, though? The cars that do for sure have to two-stop, they're going to be getting more... their tires will be in the optimal zone for longer than those that are better on fuel economy.
Yeah, like I say, for mileage, to my knowledge, every car has to two-stop. No car
right.
got one-stop this. So,
but I mean,
those
cars that are going, let's say, 43 laps, or they're just barely having to pit that second time. Their tires will have run more laps than those cars that have to pit more frequently. So the cars that are pitting more frequently are in that optimum zone longer.
Of course,
Mr. Stepanov then
the other cars
ducks in the pits.
have
Go ahead.
Option to stop shorter. So
That's true.
So they if they find that their tires are an issue, they can just stop at will. So that becomes less of a... It's not really a handicap to, say, like the Corvettes, who are just a lap or two, I think, a stint off of being able to one-stop. Because they can come into the pits when they feel that they're starting to lose grip. Now, it's quite possible that Breeze felt that's what compromised him on that lap, cost him 2 places, so decided to ditch the tyres, let's get some new boots on, let's get running again.
Alright, let's take a look and see if we can't find some other close battles here. I'm currently on board with FAF Stone Stig, and I don't think that there's really anybody around. He's sort of off in an island of his own here, so we're going to switch to somebody else.
It's actually quite interesting. Most of the field are suddenly spread quite widely apart through the pit stops. Because there's a number of people who still haven't yet pitted. For instance, I'm Frame and Eggy have just stopped now. So it's going to be interesting to see where they come out with regards to the Corvette. Nath's in as well.
All right, so we're going to ride on board with LRT Breeze here, and we're going to see where those 2 Z4s come out at.
Same with Sidewinder, and in fact, the only person who hasn't stopped is the British First.
In that McLaren, yeah.
Who still has a massive 25% left of his fuel tank.
That is amazing. So the British First is actually leading this race.
He is. I'm
LRT
wondering whether or
Breeze
not he
is
can
fourth.
stop.
LRT Breeze is 4th, right behind F4H Eggy, and Eggy's going to be on cold tires. Although a couple of more corners and Eggy's tires will be right up to temperature. LRT Breeze going around the outside down into turn 4. I think that's going to be advantage Z4 though. Yep, Eggy takes the position right back. He's in 3rd again. Breeze very eager to get around this Z4. He is lost out as a factor of this pit. Breeze switching to the outside. Not going to make it happen for turn 5.
He's got a good exit,
gets a
though,
good
coming
run
down
there.
6. Eggy's moved defensive.
He's already on the inside. It's going to be slow going for both of them. I think it's going to be Breeze is going to get the pass done here down into turn 10.
He does certainly seem to be carrying better speed at the moment with the hotter tyres. But by now, you've got to think Eggy's got to be just starting to get his grip back. But he is now going to have trouble because they're coming up to that main straight again. And with the Corvette that close.
Yeah, you're right. So the pass didn't happen into turn 10, but Breeze is right there. I think he's sort of lining it up now, not going to do anything stupid because he knows he's got that big straight coming up. You can see also as they come out of turn 13 how much wider of a line he's got to take, Breeze has to take, to keep that momentum going of the car. The Z4 can sort of zip along. Oh wow, he got a really good exit, did F4H Eggy, off of the last turn there. I don't know if the Corvette's going to be able to catch him.
I don't think he's going to. I am very surprised. That was an incredible exit.
Yeah, it wasn't really a mistake from Breeze. I mean, it was an okay exit. It was just a fantastic exit from the Z4 of F4H Eggy. I think he just kept his foot in it. He might have been able to go full throttle around that final turn.
It wouldn't surprise me. Depends on the setup, but if he's got enough rear downforce just to make sure the rear keeps in check, then yeah, flat out of that chicane.
All right, let's jump back up to the front. British first. Let's see how close is he. Yes, we've got I'm Frame catching him very quickly now. Those tires are quite used up on that McLaren.
I'm surprised at how well its rear tyres are sticking together, though. So he's only got 36% wear on the rear.
Yeah, 58% on the front left, though, for that McLaren.
That's true. I mean, his biggest problem is going to be tyre wear at the end of this stint, as to whether he can keep up a decent pace.
This goes back a little bit to what I was saying about those cars that do decide to stay out. They're doing so at the risk of driving longer on, exhausted tires. And he's definitely playing the defensive game here, and this really is not the same race. So I don't know if I was British first, would I hold him up much more? I think it's going to start affecting his race. Wow, very, very close here for I'm Frame. He's certainly going to make a pass here. Or doesn't. This is shocking. He may pull out just to try and outbrake him a little bit. Maybe just a tad more downforce on that BMW than the McLaren ahead.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think if I was British first, as long as it's not affecting my lap time, and I wouldn't fight a move, but I wouldn't give it up either, because you don't know how it's going to play out for the latter part of the race. You might find himself racing again with him.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if it doesn't affect his lap time, then there's no harm in staying right in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as long as he doesn't start defending lots and compromising his lines, then this isn't a problem. This is more a problem to I'm Frame for if Eggy and Breeze start closing again.
You know what's interesting? So Breeze has made a mistake. He's back in 6th now. He fell 2 positions off the back. He was 4th. He has now fallen off the back of F4H Eggy, so now he's behind LRT teammate LRT Nath, or I guess clubmate, not really teammate. LRT Nath and F4H Chris Supra, who Chris Supra is currently running 4th.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as to what happened. Did he acquire any damage at all? Or?
Let's take a quick look. I don't believe so. No damage.
No, so it's probably put a wheel on the grass in a braking zone. He was very close behind Eggy when we last saw him, so it wouldn't surprise me if slightly unsighted or one of his brake markers had just put a wheel off.
Absolutely could be, especially if he was... It's difficult to try and put pressure on a car that has phenomenal grip or superior grip to you, because you've got to take a little bit different line to appropriately apply pressure. Otherwise, you're just directly behind the car, and that's not really as much pressure as oh god, he's trying to make a move. So
I'm to make by the way just retook the lead, managed to capitalize on a mistake from British first on turn 3.
Yeah, and we've also see Eggy here coming up on the back of British first.
Yeah, so I think British first though is going to be pitting very soon.
This is kind of shocking that he's been able to stay out this long. It does look like we have our first retirement, 2 retirements actually, LER Mays and LSR Worst Man.
Yeah. So if you see some random cars parked on the track, it looks like a DC, because I noticed then that there's a Corvette that seems to be on the uphill to turn 9. It's not actually there, so don't worry, they're not going to hit it.
A little bit of a bump there from F4H Eggy into the back of British first, but I don't think there's going to be any damage with that. It's just kind of slowing F4H Eggy. He's got to be clean around here, but different braking points and whatnot for different drivers are going to cause some of that to happen more often.
I must admit, I've been impressed about British first pace, because he is stuck with these 2 cars who qualified 1st and 3rd. I think 1st and 3rd, and he's running with them pretty much on pace, even with these worn tyres. And still he stays out.
That's really shocking. I probably would have.
When does this thing run out of fuel?
I think this is beyond what we expected from the McLaren, honestly. And I assure you that we tested the crap out of these cars. So his driving style must be just so that he is getting amazing fuel economy out of that McLaren, because the pit windows are all done for everyone else.
I must admit, did he change to this car, or has he always been in it?
No, he did change to this car. He was in the Audi and wanted to change to a more fuel-efficient car so that he had better option on pit windows.
He certainly got it now.
Oh man, is Eggy gonna get around here?
It's always so disconcerting going up that hill on the first-person camera.
No doubt. I think Eggy is gonna try and make a move here very, very soon.
Yeah, he's got to make a move soon. I mean, I'll be honest, I've been expecting the McLaren to pit now for the last 3 laps, and he's still going. So,
see if you can't double check down the grid, see if there's another battle we should be watching other than this move from F4H Eggy around British first.
Right, well, Breeze has got past Nate,
very, very
so
close.
He's heading up.
All right, so presumably that's either by skill. There's a potential there that Nath just sort of released him as British First has got better. Let's see, something just happened there with British First as British First ducks into the pits. Did he slam on brakes on exit? Let's see what happens here. Oh, just a bit of a tap there from F4H Eggy. Sorry, just looking back through a quick replay. Just a bit of a tap there from F4H Eggy as British First presumably put on the brakes to try and come into pit lane there, and Eggy not expecting that.
Yeah, to be honest, British First was still on the racing line as if, you know, about to continue a lap, then all of a sudden started to move over rather late into the actual pit entrance.
So what's
looking at that replay,
surprising?
so.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. He should have been more to the right, and you know, I don't think there's truly any. I don't think there's going to be an inquiry about that. But what's interesting about that, British First tucks in to the pits, and we see F4H Eggy now with more than a quarter of his tank gone, and British First will be coming out with a nice and full tank.
Yeah, I think he's come out in 9th place as well, so he's running. He's there entirely on pace because everyone's done one stop now. But from the way he was keeping up with Eggy and Frame, he might well be in a bit of contention later on because it looks like he had the mileage to one stop.
Back on board with LRT Breeze in 5th at the moment as he chases down LRT Nath, so he was not released by Nath. Want to see who fell out of the top there.
Oh, someone just slid off the road. Who was I watching? I've misplaced it.
Again, 42 minutes into this race, should be roughly an hour and a half.
I can't find who it was. I was watching someone just as I was switching away. They were sliding off the road. I know it was a Z4, but I can't tell whether it was Hydro. Seems
Or Mr.
like
Stepanov, they're very close, aren't they, the liveries?
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's also in the shade, so it's also changing the colours slightly. So I can't find anyone who's actually dramatically out of position, so it shouldn't have dramatically affected anyone.
Anybody in a tight battle that you see there, Matt?
British First currently just in front of, it looks like Stoned Stig.
FAF Stone Stig, yeah.
Yeah, for 9th and 10th. That battle's pretty close. Looking further back down the field again.
Now, to be fair here, British First is going to be on, well, now he'll be on nice and warm tires, but British First out-qualified FAF Stone Stig by roughly half a second, so this really shouldn't last for too much longer. We should see British First start to get into a groove and pull away here from that BMW of FAF Stone Stig.
Otherwise, just going even further back, we got Mr. Stepanov and Roadrunner, XPR Roadrunner that is. I've just remembered there are 2 Roadrunners in this particular race, having a relatively decent battle. Bit toing and froing. Stepanov pulls out a bit of a gap through the backfield which they're in at the moment, whereas XPR Roadrunner in a Bentley closes right on up on anything that looks resembling a straight. And they're not that far ahead of F4H Devil. He could get in on some of this action as well.
Yes, Eggy's teammate. You know, this is actually very exciting to see I'm Frame and Eggy up here, because I believe they are in... Let me just have a quick check. Yes, there's only 1 point between F4H Eggy and I'm Frame. So with I'm Frame, if he wins this race, this will be his first win, his 3rd podium, and currently he has 150 points to his name, and F4H Eggy has had a 2nd and what appears to be a 4th, or I'm sorry, that's a 5th place at Hockenheim. So yeah, he's just 1 point ahead of I'm Frame. So this could spell good news for I'm Frame.
Oh, it's definitely going to spell good news with 2 third places. He's not been off the podium yet this series, so he's been enormously consistent. The only other person who could claim that is Breeze at the head of the table. And currently Breeze is down in 5th place. And he was quite close to Nath, but Nath has now pulled out at least a 3-4 second gap over him. So even that battle's kind of spread out a little bit. Right. On track at the moment we have... it's following, right, we're following LRT... Oh, is that Nath or Breeze? I'll be able to check that in just a second. Right, it looks like we're following Breeze as he heads down into turn 1. As you can see, he's dropped a fair bit back from Nath, which is a bit of a surprise considering his qualifying pace. Nath having a very clean race, moving up the field. I'm going to check ahead, see if there's any action up the front. At the moment it looks equally spread out at the moment between I'm Frame, Eggy and Chris Supra. BMW Z4 is now occupying the first 3 positions, with Corvettes 4th and 5th, and 6th, as it seems, Sidewinder has taken the position as Roadrunner pitted. Sorry, I know you can't see this at home. Yeah, Roadrunner has in fact just come out the pits back in 12th position, just ahead of the battle with Mr. Stepanov and XPR Roadrunner. In fact, that looks like to be the closest battle on the field. Mr. Stepanov and Roadrunner 13th and 14th, and technically GSR Roadrunner in 12th, having just pitted. And in fact, it looks like XPR Roadrunner has just made it past Mr. Stepanov.
Indeed, just made the move.
Just going out of turn 8 up the hill to turn 9.
This is a strong performance from Mr. Stepanov. I know we saw him in V8 Supercars, and he evolved as a driver. He moved himself up into Lobby A towards the end of the season, and now is looks to be regularly here in Lobby A for GT3. That's impressive stuff for him. It's always good to see drivers doing that.
I mean, he's shown really steady and quite fast improvement over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 months of just driving. But you know what they say, you race with faster people, you get faster, you start picking everything up, and it certainly seems to be the case with Mr. Stepanov, as he is really enjoying the tow from the tank of a Bentley that's in front of him.
Yeah, that Bentley gives off a pretty big wash. I don't know if you noticed that, but certain cars have different effects on draft, like how big the window is, and that Bentley puts off a pretty wide aero wash.
Mind you, I'm not surprised with the size of that rear wing. You could iron clothes on that. Go sunbathing. Also, I just want to remark, that is a fantastic livery that is on XPR Roadrunner's car, that Skull Candy livery. Looks
it is a
fabulous.
pretty amazing looking Bentley. So just a quick note, I don't know if it has been mentioned, but we have had Hakumai also retire from this race. So he's our third retirement, sitting alongside LER Mays and LSR Worstman. Current running order, let's go through that real quick. I'm Frame leads this race with F4H Eggy in second. F4H Chris Supra is in third. LRT Nath is in fourth. LRT Breeze in fifth. LRT Sidewinder sixth. LRT Stubbsy in seventh. That's the whole Corvette pack there moved up in fourth through seventh there. The British first holding on to eighth at the moment. We think the pit stops might have a pretty good run for him in this next run of pit stops. And currently he's eighth ahead of FAF Stone Stig in ninth. LER Hydro is 10th. LRT Lamb Chop is 11th. GSR Roadrunner clawing his way back up from 12th. XPR Roadrunner just behind him in 13th. Mr. Stepanov in 14th.
GSR Roadrunner's now in 14th and passing Mr. Stepanov. And I think Roadrunner's had another mistake.
Oh my.
There we go. He's just blown past Mr. Stepanov on the straight. Run it a little right through turn one.
Good call out then. So we've got F4H Devil in 15th, XPR Chicane in 16th, and Midland Zeta in 17th.
Only 3 retirements so far. Not too bad. Obviously, we'd like to see none at all, but...
Right. We're going to go up to the front here and see where F4H Eggy is in relation to... Oh man, it's a huge gap between I'm Frame and F4H Eggy. I'm Frame has just unleashed the beast of that BMW Z4 and is now just, I'm sure, just locked into qualifying mode.
Yeah, that is a massive lead. You can see the difference, though, that being stuck behind First British for a while did not only to allow Eggy to close what was a pretty substantial gap back up, but then just 2 laps, and it meant that he lost the tow. And we'd seen in qualifying the pace that I'm Frame has got. He's obviously just put together a string of qualifying laps, which has just taken him away from Eggy.
Indeed. So we've also got, let's see, we're on board right now with F4H Chris Supra, currently on the last step of the podium in third. LRT Nathan, LRT Breeze behind, trying to claw their way back up to get a fight for this podium, but currently not really on the radar. You can't really see them behind or anything.
No, they're definitely not close to Chris Supra at the moment. It looks like Breeze is closing back up again on Nath. There was a while where they were significantly far apart, but right now Breeze is probably setting the slightly faster laps of the two, but even they're not that close to each other. In fact, the Corvettes seem as much spread as the BMWs at the front.
With that, we see I'm Frame set a 1:47.707, quickest lap of the race, and we see Eggy improve upon his qualifying time. He's at a 1:48.175, so very, very close to hitting that 1:47 mark. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to push that BMW into the 1:47s, but we know the car is capable, as the car just ahead is regularly doing that. We do see one of the LRT guys into the pits. I believe it's Breeze. It is Breeze.
Yeah,
So
he stopped
presumably his
earlier in the
last.
first stint as well, so he's obviously got his strategy and he's working it to keep the tyres in condition. Out of interest,
45% tire wear on the fronts for him.
British First is passing the pit lane. And he's doing so with still a 2/3 of a full tank of fuel. So he's not stopping again.
He does come out just behind the British First, and actually there's I say he's just behind, but there's actually a bit of a gap.
In fact, there's Lamb Chop in between, I think. Yes, in fact, it's come out immediately behind Lamb Chop, who I think has just moved aside, I assumed, for his team leader.
60, still 2/3 of a tank of fuel left for British First. The question is going to be whether British First will have to make a second pit.
I honestly don't think he does.
I think we're far enough along now. Let me take a quick look at time. Yeah, he's made it this far. I don't think he's going to need to pit. It'll be close, but I don't think he'll need to pit again.
No, so I think everyone who's coming out the pits behind him, they're going to have to pass him on the track. And that McLaren already showed with I'm Frame that who qualified well in excess of a second faster a lap than him. And certainly the lap times now, I don't know if you can find British First's fastest lap currently.
Yes, British First fastest lap, a 1:49.383.
So that's a 1.5 second difference to I'm Frame, and he kept him behind him for 3 laps on pretty worn tyres. So that McLaren is going to be tough to pass unless you have a significant straight line advantage over it.
2 more LRTs just spotted there in the pits. So presumably that's going to move British First up into 5th. It does. And that's LRT Sidewinder and LRT Stubbsy there in the pits. Man, he's going to be the talking point here. British First, presumably, is going to take the lead again when I'm Frame, Eggy, and Chris Supra come into the pits.
I'm not sure about the lead. I'm Frame is setting some serious lap times and had also got in front of him before he pitted. So he'd got back on. He'd already overcome the 1 pit stop deficit, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, indeed. I'm Frame right now dealing with some lap down traffic, number 22, which I believe is Eggy's teammate. What is that? Is that Devil?
I think that's Devil. Yeah, Devil's currently running in 16th place. So that would make sense.
So he's already lapped the back 2, so that's 16th and 17th lap now. FAF Stone Stig is up next for him, also running in a BMW Z4. Midland Zeta, the only Audi in here.
Currently running 17th. But he has done all of his pit stops, I think, in fact, he's just coming out the pits now. So he's done his last pit stop now.
It's surprising that he's been on a strategy that's roughly equal to those Corvettes. I mean, with the wider windows now, I suppose he's afforded that luxury, but I'm Frame
it's
still
more
running
that
with
the
20%.
Corvettes have been stopping, I think, a little early and not running their fuel as low. Whereas, certainly when I checked Midland Zeta on his first pit stop, he'd basically run the tank pretty much dry. So he was extending his pit stops as long as possible, whereas the Corvettes were stopping maybe 2-3 laps early.
You know what would be really interesting is if, we could have the weight of these cars and therefore the lateral grip of these cars affected by how much fuel was in them, because then the advantage would be to run it dry every time if your tires could afford it. You'd see as you got lower and lower. I mean, we're talking about 20% of a fuel tank here at 8 pounds per gallon. It's going to be a considerable amount of weight.
It would be interesting to have that modelled in, living the dream and all. But conversely, if you were going to do that, you'd then have to also give people the freedom to pick their fuel level, which then means that becomes part of the tune, and that means Turn 10 doing some work.
Quick note, I'm Frame in the pits. In the pits is I'm Frame.
Now this will be interesting. Where does he
Gives
come
up
out
the
in
lead
relation to
to
first?
Indeed. So that's F4H Eggy taking the lead there. Currently
Chris
holds on to
Supra's
second.
going through as well. Don't think he's stopped either. No, Chris Supra has stopped. He's pulled in as well.
So yeah, indeed, I'm Frame stays out ahead of British First, who is still currently 5th.
Yeah, he's just coming onto the start and finish straight now. So I think he's possibly going to get
He could
Nath.
get. That would be interesting if he was on podium.
He has just got Chris Supra.
He has.
He
He's
is
third.
on
He's
podium.
third. British First is third, and we know how hard that McLaren is to pass.
Yeah, he's going to have his work cut out for him, particularly as this time he's got pretty decent tires. So he's going to be able to hold that for a while.
Yeah, only 30% wear on that front left, which is really the tire that takes the punishment here, and still a little bit more than a half a tank of fuel left for British First. I'm pretty positive he's good to the end of the race.
Yeah, which in and of itself is going to be a massive talking point on the forums once this race finishes.
You know, though, the McLaren itself doesn't have it, like, out of pure pace, the McLaren is one of the worst.
I wouldn't put it amongst the best. I wouldn't say it's the worst either.
Well, it doesn't beat the BMW. I mean,
it's very much a rounded car because it doesn't beat the BMW on the grip. It doesn't beat the Corvettes or the
Bentley's
Bentley
on straight.
on the straights. It's kind of second or third in everything.
Right, jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. So, but what it seems to be master of is fuel.
Yeah, no doubt.
It seems to have this epic fuel tank. I'm amazed at how much fuel he has got left after just one stop.
I am a bit shocked by this. We have had 4 different testers look at all the different cars, including the McLaren, and this...
Nobody highlighted this, no.
Yeah. It was deemed that this car would still have to make another stop, but he's getting more out of it than any of our testers. So bravo to him for whatever he's doing that gets more fuel out of this. I think, actually, if we had pushed this race much longer, I'm going to be interested to see where Midland is.
The Audi would have had to have 3 stopped.
Exactly, the Audi would have had to 3.
Any longer, so... I think it's possible the McLaren possibly slipped its fuel mileage under the radar a little bit because it wasn't really used in the main lobbies up until this point, with British First switching to it for this race. And in doing so, I believe, didn't he forfeit his previous points?
Correct. He currently is running with 0 points.
So that's the reason for being allowed to switch, if you see what I mean, starting off from scratch. But it's incredible to think that he's getting this mileage out of this car.
We always knew it was going to be kind of close. On our dev team, LRT Breeze is one of those drivers, and we had some people that were telling us the McLaren could do that, it could run out at 20 laps. We had somebody else, LRT Breeze, said that it would run out turn 14 of lap 21. So it shouldn't have been able to do this, but it would have been the best on fuel economy by a lap or so over the BMW. The BMW was the second most...
frugal.
Yes, exactly. So the question is there a better battle than this on track, the battle for third at the moment between British First and F4H Chris Supra? I'll keep the camera...
Yeah, I'm currently looking back down the field. Breeze is in front of Nath now after the pit stops. They got a second or so between them at the moment.
If it finishes out just like this will be the first race that LRT Breeze has finished off the podium, and I believe...
We got a bit of action, 7th, 8th and 9th, being Sidewinder, Roadrunner, GSR Roadrunner and LRT Stubbsy. nose to tail going through turn 3 right now.
Yeah, very close action. Not quite pushing each other yet, but this is definitely very, very close. We're going to see whether GSR Roadrunner can get around that Corvette. Now, I believe that the Vet... Oh, just going wide there is GSR Roadrunner at the top of turn 4 on the exit. Doesn't look like it cost him anything, just probably he may need a quick hot swap of driver's suit after this.
Definitely.
Heading
Kept
up the
his
hill
footing,
now
though.
into turn 9.
He certainly didn't live.
Very, very close now. Now, the advantage here is going to be advantage Bentley because there's no draft for 7th place LRT Sidewinder. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down into turn 1 on this next lap.
Yeah, because the theory is that the Bentley gets off the corners better and the Corvette has the greater top end. That's the theory. We're about to see it put into practice coming out of here.
GSR Roadrunner all over the back there of LRT Sidewinder.
He's
See
got
what
a
happens
pretty
as
good
he-
exit.
Yeah,
kept
both
it
of them
tidy.
get pretty good. GSR Roadrunner running just a bit wider, but presumably that means he used a bit more road. We'll see what happens here. He's got the draft. Is he going to duck out? I think so. He pulls out alongside. Is he going to try and outbrake him into turn 1? They're side by side into turn 1. He has the inside line, but he's going to have the outside line for turn 2 here. Has to tuck back in for turn 3. That was a bold move by GSR Roadrunner. That's for sure what he's got to do. Oh man, does he try to go to the inside here for turn 3? Both cars fairly heavy.
Yeah, both of these cars are certainly not the lightest in the field.
Oh, dives to
we'll
the
say.
inside for turn 4, doesn't make it.
But it is a very evenly matched battle, and I think that's Stubbsy trying to get in on it as well.
Oh, almost goes up the inside. A bit of a tap from Stubbsy. Bit of a tap from Stubbsy.
Is he going to profit from it? No.
Yeah, I
Line
believe.
astern again as we go up the hill.
Yeah, jeez. These guys. Let's see what happens here as we come down into turn 10. Again, the straight is really just too short here down into turn 10 for a move to happen, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's possibly against one of the BMWs. Any one of these cars could have tried something because they can come off that corner quite well if they've made a mistake. But these 3 cars are all going to be very evenly matched. In fact, I imagine Stubbsy and Sidewinder are both using the same tune. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And every time Roadrunner so wide there on that last turn.
Yeah, you want to use all the road you can, but you certainly don't want to, corrections are just going to, the little corrections you have to do to get yourself back on track. Sometimes they can negate that advantage of using more road. This time, not close enough to pull out and get ahead of him.
How well you can ride that curb.
Yeah.
Coming off that last turn.
We see the LRT going very, very wide here on the exit of turn 3. Now that's kind of a precarious, the entry to turn 4 is kind of a precarious rumble strip there because it can pop you as well. Goes to the inside, does GSR Roadrunner, doesn't get it done, but wow, what car control that he can really throw on the anchors and keep that car still pointed, not sliding.
If you're interested in yet more action, and it is getting much, much tighter now from 3rd to 5th, this is LRT Breeze, F4H Chris Super, and the British First still holding them back with those now quite worn tyres.
I think
There's
we're
a little
right on board
frame
with.
there for the final podium position. Oh, we got a bit of a knock then. Don't know
Yeah,
if
we
you
just
called
had Chris Super then just get ahead. We'll see what happens, but I think that McLaren has a little bit less wing on it. We'll see whether he can pass him. British
I'll be
First,
honest,
can
I'm
he get it
curious
by?
as to whether or not the Corvette can just blow past the peril.
British First is going to go to the outside, but he's not going to have the inside line. He's arguably ahead. A little bit of contact there. Oh, the contact has cost them both.
That got messy. Breeze has got past the pair of them.
Yeah, that hasn't favored either of them.
And
and a big mistake from Midland Zeta there. Turn 3.
Yeah, it all started because they ran up on the back marker. That's when I tuned into the battle, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, good call out on getting into this action. We got into it just as F4H Chris Supra made that pass on British First. The question now is going to be, how vulnerable is this pack to falling into the clutches of more Corvettes behind? LRT Nath just in 6th there.
Yeah, Nath isn't far behind at all, so he's literally, 2 seconds maybe off the back currently of Chris Supra, because that accident would have slowed up both of them. I'm also quite curious to see whether or not Breeze can now pull away.
I think he's going to be able to. He's got the legs to do it. British First only qualified 8th. Breeze right up there, running some pretty impressive times.
Chris Supra that if he can get past British First, who, if we're honest, is up there due to fantastic fuel mileage and pit strategy. Yes, he's running the laps as well. Very impressive considering the fuel mileage he's getting. But you can't help but feel he's a little out of position just because he's saved himself 20-25 seconds worth of pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could be from, just driving style. I know the more straight you keep your car pointed, so the less steering angle. There's a theory there that more steering angle results in worse fuel loss. So the drivers that are smoother, the drivers that are not making corrections are getting more out of it, and that's why some drivers get, perhaps a lap or 2 better than others. But he's getting better than 4 of our testers. Nobody predicted the car to go this long.
I know it. Like I say, I take my hat off to him because enormously impressive. But it is just, he is definitely holding up Chris Supra, and has been now how many laps? I've lost count. He has been staring at the back of that McLaren. I tell you what, the only thing they could do really for me is give us the flames that actually come out the back of that thing.
Out of the back of the McLaren?
Yeah. At least that would make Chris Supra's day, following a pair of flamethrowers around.
It does run super rich, doesn't it, that McLaren? Very close to Chris Supra.
Amazes me even more about what he's doing. I mean, in real life, it runs very rich. It spits fuel out the back on every downshift, but yet it's got the best fuel mileage out of any of these cars, and not by a little bit.
Right, it is sort of head and shoulders above the rest, with the Audi being the worst by practically a full lap.
Right, just to recap on that battle though with Roadrunner, Stubbsy and Sidewinder, it seems to have kind of sorted itself out with Roadrunner in 7th. Stubbsy is also ahead of Sidewinder now, so Sidewinder seems to have lost 2 places and dropped to 9th. Again, that may have been affected by lap traffic, because I've noticed that just behind them is the Audi of Midland Zeta. I'm not saying he's done anything wrong, but taking advantage of traffic is certainly a skill. Where you catch it, where you pass it, how much it hinders your opponents.
Yeah. So just to make a quick comment here, we actually don't know what lap. Our timing car doesn't give us that information. And I think it's going to be relatively tough to figure out exactly what lap they're on based on fuel economy, as we've seen with British First. He's actually pulling away a bit from Chris Supra.
Makes me wonder whether Chris Supra's had a bit of a mistake, or I don't know. He's right on the back of Breeze again.
That's what I was going to say. He's really found the extra 10% in that throttle cable, because he's back up actually pressurizing Breeze. And this with 55%. Well. Indeed, 55% tire wear on that front left, just getting punished by that McLaren. Still 20% fuel left. I wonder. I mean, we got to be getting very, very close to the end of this race.
If he's going to one stop, I mean, to be fair, for the mileage he's been getting, he's probably got enough, scarily, for another 4 laps. I'm trying to think of how many percent. I'm going to try and track how much he uses in a lap. But it only just dropped 20% as he crossed the line there. So, if I'm right and he's only using about 4% a lap, sorry, 5% a lap, then that gives him 4 laps of fuel. And he is right on the back of Breeze. He's not... It's not that Breeze made a mistake or anything, it just seems that British First has found that extra half second or so and is really chasing on. Mind you, it's amazing what you can do when you're the chaser rather than the chased.
Right. Yeah, you do just find that little bit extra, don't you?
Yeah, I know I always do. As soon as I can see that I'm closing on someone, I'll suddenly find an extra, 3-4 tenths of a second, and it looks like that McLaren has done just that.
We say that now Chris Supra seems to be closing up as well, so maybe he's getting the advantage here as well.
Yeah, it's very much ebbing and flowing between the 4 cars, really. You can't discount Nath, who's just off the rear at the moment. Looked like First going a little defensively, so he actually considers himself racing for position. So he must think he's got enough fuel to get to the end.
Just a real quick check. Do we need to switch to another battle?
I'm having a quick look now.
You know, the other danger that comes with we talk about sometimes you find that extra little bit of pace when you're honing in on the taillights of another car. Sometimes if they make a mistake because you're pressurizing them, they can just go right off, and because you're so focused on their rear end, you're gonna follow them right off, or you'll push too hard, find yourself in a gravel trap. But that doesn't seem to be the case for these guys. They're just finding more pace here and there.
Certainly, although having said that, the guy in front hasn't made a mistake either. So you don't know yet whether it might happen if one person just brakes a bit too late, because if you, as you said, if you're basing your braking distances on the racer in front, it could lead to a lot of trouble. As for battles, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a lot else going on in the field at the moment, except maybe Mr. Stepinov and F4H Devil, who is right in front of our leader, having an interesting battle.
All right, just doing some really quick math here on what the distance is from our timing car. This is getting rough, but let's see if I can't just do a quick calculation of what lap I think they're on. I think that they are on lap 41 right now.
If they're on lap 41, then
we've got 3 laps to go.
I think our McLaren might be in trouble.
I would push it. I mean, if you look at her, is Chris Supra going to get even closer this time?
He got a little out of shape coming around the last corner.
Yeah, it looked like he may have just tagged the back quarter of that McLaren, and that kind of screwed up his exit.
That McLaren must really be suffering with front end grip now. 62% tyre wear on that front left. 62.
Looks like we're on leaders on lap 42 right now. So 2 more laps remaining. I guess that would be race lap 41.
If he's got 2 laps remaining, then I think British First might make it. He's been... I don't know. It's touch and go. He's going to be heartbroken if he runs out of fuel on the last lap. Yeah, this is still the closest battle on the track. with Devil and Mr. Stepanov having otherwise a small fight towards the rear of the field.
Let's take a quick look at that, and then we'll come back to this.
Yeah, it seems that I Am Frames managed to pass this battle with no issues.
Man, this has really been the story of I'm Frame really finding his rhythm here and just running away with it after being released by Breeze on that early pit. I don't think he was ever going to be able to go as long as the BMWs, but as you stated earlier, he sort of took an early pit stop and just hasn't looked back. You know, the I'm Frame after that point just put the hammer down.
Yeah, he managed to get past Breeze when obviously he was suffering a little bit with the tyre wear. That would be my guess, because immediately Eggy was passed as well into second place just later in the lap. And then
Chris Super, just as you say that, sorry to cut you off there, Chris Super has just lost a position to LRT Nath. We'll switch back to that battle. It was down into turn 1. LRT Nath just used that straight line advantage of that Corvette. I think he caught Chris Super. Big touch there, big touch. We've got LRT Nath spinning around. Looks like Chris Super is going to slow up and allow LRT Nath to get back. That's good ethics on his part.
Yeah, he knows that was his fault. That was a late lunge.
Yeah, I mean, I got to commend him for trying to make it, but it didn't work out. That it was just too narrow.
Yeah, with a bit more warning, I think that could have worked with them going side by side through there, but it was such a late dart from behind. I really don't think Nath had much warning that he was even thinking of coming at him on that corner.
Yeah, and with the sort of dodgy... that is just it then. I'm Frame has won the race. I realize we're watching another battle, but I'm Frame has won this race.
So that was a last lap lunge. No wonder he went for it. In which case, even more props to British First, who is going to cross the line with
fourth.
In fourth, but with 2% left of his fuel.
That is really impressive stuff. Nearly 70% tire wear on that front left. A nearly flawless race from British First, I have to say.
Yeah,
he does cross the line fourth. All right, let's give you your quick rundown of those that have finished. I'm Frame wins this race by a commanding 14-second lead over F4H Eggy, who finishes second. LRT Breeze finishes on the podium for the third week in a row. He's another 20 seconds roughly behind F4H Eggy, so he snags third. British First grabs fourth. LRT Nathan with that bold move around Chris Supra late in the race finishes fifth. F4H Chris Supra is sixth. GSR Roadrunner snags seventh in his Bentley. LRT Stubbsy is eighth. LRT Sidewinder is ninth. And LRT Lamb Chop currently 10th. We are waiting on FAF Stone Stig to cross the line.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm curious to see how Mr. Stepanov and F4H Devil are going to finish. They were a lap down, so they're still just coming around now. Looks like Mr. Stepanov has managed to defend his place.
They do both just cross the line then.
Yeah.
So just waiting on Midland Zeta then to cross the line. He is our last runner. I'm curious to see what kind of fuel he's got. 15% left. Whoa.
Having trouble with AI cars.
Yeah, indeed. The resuming car of the XPR, is it? Or was that GSR Roadrunner?
I think that was actually... yeah, it was definitely one of the Bentleys. I think it was actually GSR Roadrunner's car. Oh, no. Looking back
it was
at the
an
replay,
XPR.
It was XPR Roadrunner's Bentley getting itself a few new scratches. But yeah, he's got trouble because he's trying to go through the drivatars who, well, don't really know the meaning of a racing line.
Yeah, he will end up finishing 17th, though, so he doesn't really have to worry. It's not going to ruin his race at this point.
No.
So, yeah, it looks like we could have extended the race another, maybe a lap. But man, we're starting to get to the point that it's splitting hairs, and on different tracks, that it's not the same rate.
Yeah, to extend the race far enough where that McLaren needs to two-stop in the hands of British first, that's going to mean that the Audi would have to three-stop.
Let's see where...
Because Midland Zeta's coming across the line now, having already done 2 stops and only has
10% left
fuel,
yeah.
which means he's only got probably 1 lap more fuel left in that tank than the McLaren did in 1 stop.
Yeah, the McLaren did cross with, what was it, 2%?
2.
So yeah, 1 more lap would have done it, but again, it was beyond what 4 of our development team drivers researched, and we went with the most economical estimate for the cars to try and push it as much as we could.
Well, I'm going to have to reevaluate that McLaren. Wow. Never foresaw it doing 22 lap stints.
Wow, what a great race to call. I mean, this has been a fantastic race start to finish, honestly, especially the cars really being pitted against each other here, their strengths playing out at different points of the track. I think it made it very, very exciting to watch. The BMWs and the McLarens have the advantage for most of the circuit, and then, you know, down that front straight, just the powerhouse that is the Corvette and the Bentley try and make up as much as they possibly can, and it's worked out for most of the I mean, the Bentley is 7th and lower, but I mean, yes, the Bentley struggled here, the Corvette not so much, but I think the Bentley is going to do well at our 2 remaining races.
Quite probably. I mean, I found this race fascinating, watching the BMW struggling and eventually passing Breeze. I think he had to pass Breeze twice in this race. I'm pretty certain he got him at least once, and then only to find the Corvette just too much power down that main straight. But then fortunately on the second time, Eggy also got past, and that meant that Breeze was just too far back. So watching the different strengths of the cars play out, fascinating to watch.
You know, and some bold maneuvers from cars. Yes, there were a couple of taps. I don't know that really anything. Maybe that one from the one from Chris Supra, maybe, but I don't think that's going to end up as a steward's inquiry. This is a fairly clean race.
Yeah, it was pretty clean. I mean, with that particular tap, if he'd kept the position, then it almost certainly would have gone to an inquiry.
Yeah.
But he gentlemanly just weighed up as well, waited for Nath to get up and running. It possibly ruined Nath's chance to have a go at the McLaren later in the lap, but like I say, that's the luck of the draw really in this case. So I don't think I haven't witnessed anything that needs to go to stewards. Certainly no incident that anyone's been able to capitalize on with, say, just nudging someone a little bit so they lost traction or what have you. So yeah. I can't see anything on camera that would be going to stewards, but obviously a fair amount of race happens off camera.
So congratulations again to I'm Frame, F4H Eggy, and LRT Breeze for the podium positions. I would say an honorable mention to British First for well outperforming our expectations, not just on pace, but he had surprisingly good pace in a car that was deemed not as competitive or not the smart choice for this series, and he's found himself 4th, and a good move at the right time. He went from the Audi to this McLaren specifically for this race, sacrificing all points he had earned up to this point. So he comes all the way from the back now to earn some pretty good points, 70 points this race. We're going to see you guys next week at Monza at the Grand Prix circuit, January 9th. Again, qualifying starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. That'll be 10 p.m. rather, GMT. And the race then is going to be just 1 hour after that, 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. GMT. And then we have the season finale, January 16th at Spa. It'll be a night race. That'll certainly be one to watch, won't it?
Oh, it's going to be interesting with some of these cars.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for watching. You will see this up on our YouTube in probably the next day or so. Results will be tallied tonight. Again, thanks for watching. Be sure to follow us over on Twitter That is at turn_media. And you can also go over to theultimateracingnetwork.com, get signed up, and join these races if you'd like to be included in some of our upcoming series. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Good night, all.